Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold. Here lately I've been watching a whole lot of Chucky 2009, and the other day he got a torpedo heater for his shop. And this thing, he's got it set up running on diesel, although it'll run on kerosene as well. And that reminded me of back when I was a young guy. You could go to shops, maybe a garage where people were working on cars or whatever, and they had heaters that they'd made out of stovepipes. I don't know if they bought them in a factory or what, but this is kind of what the end of a stovepipe looks like. They were just sections of metal pipe that you could stick together, and they would have a long pipe and an elbow on the end that would bend up and over, and then they'd run the pipe back across another elbow, and so they'd have, like, say 4 passes back and forth of this stovepipe, and it'd have an upright piece on each side, on each end, to hold it up, for a stand. And right at the bottom there would be a gas jet that'd stick in there. It looked like it was, I guess, for a water heater kind of jet or something. Anyway, it just blew the gas, straight out into the pipe, and they'd light the thing up, and it'd put out a lot of heat, and I've never seen one of those in a long time now. I guess they quit putting those things together in favor of the fancier stuff like the torpedo heater that Chucky got. When I do this introductory part of the video, I've always got something that I intend to say, and when I get through with the video, I always discover that I didn't say it. I even went so far as to write myself a note, and I didn't use it the last time around. But I've got an idea that what it needs is an old distributor like was on the 60s and 70s model Chrysler products. It's got the little window in the side of the distributor cap where you can shove in a Allen wrench to adjust the points. And I was wondering, maybe somebody's got one you'd send to me, and I'll pay your shipping to me, and I'll ship it back to you after I use it. But I need something like that for a demo. Not desperately need it, but I could do something if I had it. And the more complete it is, the better. I'd been meaning to mention that for several different videos up to now, and this is the first time I had to think about it, and the first time I had this little booger here to, to remind me. That was back, in my grandpa's time. I remember my grandpa, about a month before he died, he put lard all over his back end, and he slid downhill pretty quick after that. I've been watching another guy called Paul Joseph Watson, and he's involved in this Infowars.com channel stuff, and he says stuff that makes a lot of sense that I imagine most people would be afraid to say. You might want to give that a little look-see. What we're going to do today is we're going to make an indicator holder, and as a coincidence, I just finished a few minutes ago watching Metal Tips and Tricks. Dale Deary, I think his name is, was making an indicator holder. Of course, he did a fancy job with a dovetail in it to hold on to a little test indicator, not your regular dial indicator. I'm going to move this camera down a little bit because I'm tired of trying to reach upwards. I've also been working on teaching myself to MIG weld. I don't often buy a lot of tools. In fact, now that I've got kind of older, I tend to buy a tool only if I'm going to have it for a project and I don't have one. When I was younger, I would buy tools just for the heck of it, I guess, and that led me to having tools that never got used, like this stuff in the Starrett box here. I bought this somewhere in the early 70s. What is it? It's a radius gauge set, all stainless steel, wonderful stuff. Right here in this container. Never been used. Never been out of that container other than to look at it, I guess, when I received it in the shipment. And got another tool. I bought this back in the early 70s. That stuff's never been out of the box, you know. And I think it came with a little test indicator, and that's been out of the box. But nothing else, you know. I could have been better off just to buy the test indicator instead of the full expensive set. So as I got older, I discovered that, yeah, tools are nice and all that, but it's better for me to just buy tools for myself whenever I'm going to use one, you know. And so that's pretty much been my, my method up till now. So anyway, I got tired of worrying about my dial indicator holder being kind of springy and wobbly. It seems to me like it is, and I don't want to buy a new Noga or whatever. You know, that's pretty expensive stuff. So I made one that'll, pretty steady and all, and that's what the video's about today. Before we get into that, though, I'll tell you about old Bubba. Bubba had an accident, I guess. He went down to the doctor's office and he was telling the doctor, doctor, there's something bad wrong with me. He said, everywhere I touch myself, I hurt. He said, let me show you. I touched my knee and he says, that hurts. He said, I can touch my belly button. Yo, he said, that hurts. He said, I can touch my shoulder and it hurts there. The doctor looked at him a couple minutes and says, Bubba, you idiot. He says, you got a broken finger. Yeah, poor old Bubba. It's a hard life for us rednecks. So we'll go from here right straight on into making an indicator holder. This is shorter than the usual video. You see that right there? And right there. And right there. And right there. I bet you don't know what it is. Oh, I heard a couple of guys give the right answer. Yeah. That's so I can quickly find the power outlets I put under there. They can be kind of hard to find when you can't see them. Well, I guess the question would be, what sort of ill-advised thing am I going to try now? And what I'm going to try is to cut this piece of aluminum with a slitting saw. And who knows how it's going to come out, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to get started on it. I think I've probably got the RPMs about right. And I'll just pour a little lube right there on the cutter before we get started. We'll see if it hangs up or sinks into the aluminum. Like it did. So we'll change this out for an end mill and put some support under it, and we'll square it off into a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch piece. Okay, we'll try squaring this thing up with a 5/8 end mill. That ought to be about right. Well, so I had intended this thing to be a 1/2 inch square, but of course the dirty sides, I'm going to run those across the belt sander, so they'll be a little bit under, but this side will be within, say, 5/1000ths of a 1/2 inch when I get through, probably. Well, we're going to have to move it some, so we'll move it. That's 536 thousandths.
So I guess we could drop it down about 36 thousandths. Ah well. Alright, so I'm going to deburr this and then knock off and start over on it again tomorrow, because it's getting close to 10 and that's at night, and that's probably a good time to stop. Okay, we're getting closer to the end of this thing. So we get it lined up here. That looks pretty close to dead on to me. And we're going to make it with a series of pilot holes. It may not be as dead on as I thought, but it's not. Let me move it over just a little bit here. I've got plenty to cut off, so the thing's too long, and if need be, I can cut some of it off. Well, so I'm not so sure I like that. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to come back with an end mill. Be right back. Okay. That's an awfully big hole, but for these things to fit, it's got to be a big hole. There you go. It's not real tight, but it'll be tighter later. So hopefully this is still going to work out. Like I say, this is really long, and I got a lot of room to cut off the end of it if it's not right. After a lot of looking, I found a 1024 tap, which is what I got to screw in there. So let's go for it, I guess. See what turns out. I guess it's time to buy a new battery for this camera, because that one doesn't last very long at all. Just a couple of minutes and it's all used up. There, let me get around here where I can get to it. This is an old tap that was broken at some factory one of my brothers was working at and thrown out, and I turned it into a homemade bottom tap. Ah, dang it. Well, it was broke off once before and now it's broke off again. I guess it's good that I've got a lot of extra length there. Because that's what I'm going to have to do, is cut this little sucker off and start over. preferably with a brand new tap that's you know, not a homemade bottom tap. Oh well, I thought really I had plans that I'd finish this today. Too bad for me. Alright, amongst all the junk around here, I found a good 1024 tap. It was actually a number one tap, or at least a number two instead of a bottom tap. And so I decided to go ahead and redo the thing off camera so you didn't have to watch me go through it all over again. And now I've got a good indicator holder there, and I don't have to worry about it being floppy or anything, because I always worried about that other one. I know Starrett's a sacred name, but I always worried about it. It seemed like it was a little bit floppy. I can hook up to this and know it's not floppy, and everything looks pretty good to me. So I've got the other end of this thing that's still down there, and if I need some other kind of an attachment later, I can add to it. So that should serve me pretty good for quite a while, and I think I really like it. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment, and y'all come back. The shorter version of the indicator works just fine up there too. So everything's lovely.